A terrible cannibal horror movie starring Kurt Russell in his top form. An underrated gem. Writer and director S. Creek Zarla made this wild western and visually terrible movie in 2015, but the movie didn't get as much commercial and critical acclaim as it really deserved. While putting together content based on some of the greatest western horror movies for another video of ours, we came across this masterpiece of a movie and then decided to dive deep into the hunted with goodwill. And with his pliable and gripping cinematic character and an ensemble of great actors, the film feels pleasant and yet haunting. From the obvious appeal of the film, they are the Chocolatiers. The film features a group of seasoned stars in the form of Kurt Russell's heroic city sheriff Richard Jenkins' lovable but awkward backup deputy Chicory Matthew Fox's gun-hurling and gun-toting brooder, and equally important was Patrick Wilson's crippled, loving husband Arthur Dwyer. There are blind and completely amputated pregnant women, but there is also a loving couple who can sacrifice everything for their better half. There is a man who was scalped and dissected alive, but there is also a warm relationship between a sheriff and his deputy. In short, the dynamics in this film are enormous. To put it mildly, Bone Tomahawk revolves around a sheriff and a loving husband, both of whom have a responsibility. They have no choice but to look for the deputy sheriff and wife Samantha Eduard, since they were kidnapped by a group of cannibalistic wild Indians who have no name, no language, and no qualms about being brutal. The only group that hunts with these who have no name, some kind of tribe has no name. Set in the twilight of the 19th century between the borders of New Mexico and Texas, this movie plays an essential role of viewing for any horror fan, but serves as an equally great entertainment piece for the ordinary movie fan. So let's get to the point before we get into our list. We have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thanks. Let's get started. What are the many ways you woke up from sleep? Could you ever think of waking up from sleep because someone was sitting on your neck with a rather blunt knife? This is how this massive western horror begins with Kurt Russell. It sets the tone right for the entire movie and lets viewers know what to expect. This scene is brutal because they can hear the blood spurting out and the bones cracking because Purvis Knife and his friend Buddy are robbers. Having ambushed unsuspecting people in order to kill them and plunder their belongings, Purvis does not seem to have properly slit open one of his victims, who tried to shoot the attackers, but the more experienced Buddy explains how he should slit all 16 veins around the neck. After this lesson on human anatomy, they hear the whining and galloping of horses from a distance and decide to climb up to the rocks, where they could apply to several schools of humans and animals, who are obviously worried about this environment that seems quite threatening. But Buddy continues. The other hand is more than confident that Purvis hears a menacing howl from a distance, but Buddy discards it as his fantasy. Do you hear that this is a gust that is a real musical gust? Eventually you stumble upon something that looks like a red Indian burial place. Purvis expresses his concern about this place again, but the good old Buddy wants to prove his western masculinity and daring personality. He tells Buddy that it is a burial place of a group of godless savages and civilized men like yourself should not worry. But our civilized Buddy was not afraid to scratch his itchy crotch with his gun. And did he forget how he killed people anyway some time ago? But he should have worried about the godless savages after all, because one of them shoots an arrow in his neck before panting to kill him with a spear. Purvis runs away for his life, but comes across a couple of crematorium rocks out of extreme fear. Despite the fall, he managed to escape from. 11 days later we meet Patrick Wilson as Arthur and Lily Simmons as his wife Samantha in the quiet town of Bright Hope. With a population of 268, Arthur managed to break his leg by falling from a roof because he went to work during a storm. Arthur is upset because he is grounded at home because of the injury and it interferes with his professional life. But Samantha asks him, when you see the silver lining, that they would have together for a long time. And Arthur melts. It's war moments like this that keep morale up for the entire duration of the film. The sweet and sour relationship that Arthur and Samantha share would later become the basis of the plot of the film anyway. We see that Purvis made it to Bright Hope and buries his loot near a tree. From there he goes to a local pub called Leonard Goat. But Bright Hope's sheriff Franklin Hunt, played by Kurt Russell, it was Chicory's official opinion that the suspicious Purvis was indeed suspicious. It is the substitute deputy's official opinion that his manner was suspicious. Richard Jenkins plays Chicory, a man who has stayed young while his aging body is unable to sustain. The conversations between Chicory and Hunt are not only heartwarming but also provide us with the necessary doses of comic relief. While we are on the topic of comic relief, Arthur and Samantha give each other a bit of relief by climbing on top of each other. Nevertheless, Hunt and his deputy leave the station to take a survey about the suspicious man who is also present in the pub, a local extravagant playboy man named Brother. They meet Purvis, who introduces himself as Buddy, and when his secrets seem to come to light, he tries to escape, but gets shot by our armed sheriff. Hunt, Kurt Russell, is so elegant in his shooting game and his general role as a western sheriff that he then asks Brother to get the doctor of the tan. While he and Chicory take the injured Purvis to the train station, we come back to Samantha and Arthur, where she takes care of his deep wound and they have a small heart. She asks him to read her a poem that he once wrote from Wyoming, but before, there is a knock on her door because of a medical emergency. Of course, the emergency was in the extraction of the bullet from Purvis's leg. The doctor of the tan was drunk and Samantha was the only one with medical skills. Samantha finds that Purvis is burning with fever, so she announces that she would have to stay behind even after the operation to supervise Purvis's fever. Hunt and Chicory trip, while Deputy Nick is instructed to stay with Samantha and take her home. The Western genre DNA that makes Bone Tomahawk seem like a fresh piece of work, unmade and unthinkable. Before this valley is at least a 2-day walk away. I will try to adjust your pace. If I fall behind, I will catch up when you sleep. We can assure you that the film will be unforgettable for you. There are more than a few scenes that you will remember for a long time after the credits. In the Chicory with its corn soup rushing through the area and pouring everything over, of course, even if you spit some of it into the bowl, or into the one where the gunslinger breeder has to show his emotional side before sitting down. We do not forget about the brutality that is depicted when Nick was scalped and slaughtered. Have you ever noticed that the broth tastes better due to the lack of a certain ingredient? The remarkable thing about the film is the lack of music. The first sound of the music comes into the film after a good 43 minutes, and even that only takes about a minute. This not only adds more depth to the actions performed in the spoken words, but also helps to see through the thoughts of the characters. Zara definitely trusts his actors and lets him add depth to the story instead of making them mere tools that relay the story. So that's it for today's video. If you would like us to explore other movies of your choice, feel free to mention them in the comments section below. That's all the time we had for tonight's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. It would be great if you could take some time to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to tell us which topic we should cover in the comments. We wish you a fantastic day and stay healthy.